Bryan Lee O'Malley, famed author and illustrator of Scott Pilgrim, a very popular series. We're not taking a look at that today, though. Hey everybody, I'm ZombieJohnny, and today we're going to be taking a look at O'Malley's other works.
Lost at Sea. Originally published in 2002 and released as a hardcover edition in 2023, Lost at Sea follows the story of Rayleigh, a girl who has lost her way in life, joined by a couple of fast friends on a road trip style story of self-discovery. Lost at Sea's story is kind of a rambling pit of sorrow. Lots of self-deprecation, lots of long blocks of text that are dark and negative in nature. The main character, Rayleigh, is pretty dull, and as the story goes on, you learn more about her dealings with depression and sadness. But throughout the entire story, it never really perks up. Considering O'Malley's next series was Scott Pilgrim, this is a pretty grim and melancholic story thematically. You can just tell by the cover art it's not going to be a very cheery story. The use of colors in this book are interesting. It reminds me a bit of Ghost World, where instead of plain black and white panels, they have a set color palette, but only ever use two colors. Instead of using blacks for the dark tones, they use a deep blue, and all of the shadows or color accents are a light pink. I myself think it's a great look. The artwork is smaller on the page, giving it breathing room and gutter space, which I always appreciate. Overall, I think it's okay. As a first published works, I think it's a nice little coming-of-age story. I can also see why it didn't become a huge booming hit. It's a dour story that isn't bombastic or exuberant like Scott Pilgrim. It's almost void of energy. There are dots or smatterings of a certain livelihood, but generally it's the same monotone feel across the board. Seconds. Originally published in 2014, Seconds is a story about a girl who goes on a psilocybin trip of self-discovery. Following the tale of a woman named Katie who owns a popular restaurant named Seconds, Katie discovers a notepad with instructions on how to reset her life and one single mushroom. She eats this single mushroom and it takes her on a sort of grass is always greener adventure mixed with the Scrooge effect. Seriously, throughout the whole reading of the story, I kept saying to myself, yeah, it's a mushroom trip. Girl eats a mushroom and discovers a house spirit named Liz. Then it takes her on a magical journey. Yeah, mushroom trip. Anyway, it's filled with lots of humor and it's actually a very enjoyable read. There are a couple of references that made me chuckle a couple of times.
You get fat.
No, why would I get fat?
Bread makes you fat.
Bread makes you fat?
This story is just more of O'Malley's quippy writing and humor, which I absolutely love. Aesthetically, the look and paneling are right up my alley. The color palette, the line work, the small blocky panels dotted amongst panels of color with text on top. It feels like you could play Tetris with the panels and how they have the breathing space between them. Once again, the choice of having panels and art smaller on the page to give it that breathing room and gutter space just makes my inner designer so elated. Visually, this book is amongst one of my favorites. It has such a warm, cozy feel to it. Overall, Seconds is an awesome one-shot story. If you're a fan of Scott Pilgrim and Bryan Lee O'Malley's work and you don't have a copy, I suggest you get yourself one. If you're curious about Bryan Lee O'Malley's work, then I suggest getting yourself a copy of Scott Pilgrim first, and then purchasing Seconds. Though, yes, Seconds is a great story, I feel that it's not something an average fan of comic books or graphic novels would really catch on to without reading O'Malley's other works first. It has O'Malley's signature writing and quirks that I feel some people just wouldn't get if they aren't familiar with his style. I could be very wrong about that, but it's just how I feel. Let's put it this way, I wouldn't recommend Seconds to someone before they read Scott Pilgrim. If you have read Scott Pilgrim and haven't read or heard of Seconds, I say go get it now. I was trying to make sense of the distortion on the title font, with the C, N, and D in Seconds being slightly altered in a way. I can't make heads or tails of this choice, but maybe it's to give it like a little bit of character? Maybe using the negative space to make it look mushroom-like? Even though O'Malley is publishing new works and they are trying to promote his first works, the Scott Pilgrim name is plastered all over everything. Don't get me wrong, it brings in repeating fans and also new readers, so it helps in promotion of his bibliography. In the end, if you haven't read Scott Pilgrim, then get yourself a copy. If you enjoy it, then I would highly recommend you pick up Lost at Sea and Seconds. They are all readily available and published in beautiful hardcover editions.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video. Just a little different look. This is going to be a short outro. I just want to say, hope everyone's staying happy, healthy, and safe. Start enjoying that sunshine. Things are going to be really busy. So I'm trying to just put out these little videos here and there. Hopefully I can get a few more out this year. Thank you all for watching. Once again, I'm ZombieJohnny. Peace.